the rest of us become, I think. And that maybe is how they get away with it. That, of course, and phoning up the Daily Mail and saying, can you go in huge on health tourism this week? Because we've got a massive crisis coming up on the NHS. 24 minutes after 10 is the time. Mike, thank you. 2 phone lines free. Doctors and nurses only until about past. After that, I may broaden it out. I may not. I don't really want to. I'll be honest with you. I don't really need to hear what another member of the public or member of the media thinks about the NHS. I think it's time that we just gave the microphone to the doctors and the nurses, just like we did during the junior doctors' strike. That went well. Harry's in Medway. Harry, what do you reckon?
Hi, James. Yeah, I'd just like to tell you a few little things. I'm a GP over in Medway.
Okay.
Basically, a little while ago when NHS England was made and all the commissioning bodies and PCTs got abolished, they basically paid out these so-called managers hundreds of thousands in redundancy fees for them to just re-employ them again. Exactly the same people. We have exactly the same team with a new job title, increased wage. The amount of money that gets wasted in the NHS, it literally is being run by dummies.
Now, I just by way of balance, I mean, most people I know think that their organisation has been run by dummies. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's the nature of people who don't have management aspirations to see the people who do as being dummies, and we're usually right.
Yeah. The problem is that all of these people that are the managers, they have no medical background.
Yeah.
They aren't ex-GPs. They are not. They haven't got a medical background. So, I mean, you'll be surprised with this. I had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and I actually got my funding cut in my practice because my survival rate was higher than they said it should be. So for saving patients' lives, I got penalised because I was an outlier. I
don't quite follow. So they look at a graph and they apportion money according to how many people are dying.
Yep.
And you haven't got enough people dying, so you don't need that much money anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I got penalised for my cancer rate. My cancer rate is low. It's so much lower than the national average. Again, I got penalised for doing too many referrals, even though those referrals resulted in a lower cancer rate,
I see.
A higher surviving rate.
Because referrals are expensive.
Referrals are expensive, but you're saving patients' lives.
No, forget that, mate. We're only interested in the bottom line. How about this dichotomy between incompetence and malevolence? The idea, because you've probably seen some of the literature, some of these suggestions that this has been planned for years. Names like Oliver Letwin are usually bandied around. Do you buy that?
To be honest, certain aspects. NHS has got this. We are all fortunate with how good the NHS is, and don't get me wrong, it is fantastic.
For sure.
However, in elective cases, for things that aren't life-threatening, for things that are, I wouldn't say cosmetic, but things that are not necessary as such, those procedures cost, again, thousands and thousands of pounds, but because it's available on the NHS, we all expect that actually we shouldn't have to pay for anything.
Yes.
In the NHS, and to be honest, because of how it costs so much to have a procedure nowadays, it's actually not that much different. It costs the NHS practically the same as if it would cost a private hospital to carry out that procedure.
What does the future look like?
I honestly think that there's going to end up being a two-tier system.
Meaning?
Where if you do want to go and see. There was advertised well in the newspapers recently that if you do want to pay, you could see your GP on that same day.
And if you can't or won't,
if you can't, then you've got to have the two-tier system, because I just don't think. Part of what you're saying is true.
The average weight for the people in the bottom half or the wrong bit of the two-tier system will get longer, because by definition, if I can write a cheque to jump the queue, people who can't write a cheque to jump the queue are the people I'm jumping over.
Yep.
Oh, come on, Harry.
Because we haven't got. I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying that's what I think will happen.
And do you see that as a plan on somebody's part? Or do you see that as an inevitable upshot of the incompetence that has created the current situations?
I think in my mind, 15 to 20% of that thinks that actually there's people higher up who actually think, let's do this because this gets rid of a problem that we'll have. And 80% is because they're incompetency. But I do think there's 20% that there is a plan.
And the 20% possibly create the 80%. I mean, that's the Chomsky theory, isn't it? That the defunding and demoralisation is deliberate, and it leaves the people who aren't part of the project to privatise actually thinking they've got no choice.
True. That's very true.
Do you know any jokes?
Not at this stage.
So I don't think the news is. I don't think the news is going to cheer us up, Harry. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for taking the time to help the rest of us understand some of this. And it will stay afloat. We'll keep the sun in the sky until 1 o'clock, and Sheila will carry on because her coverage of the NHS is historically brilliant. And then, you know, the pendulum will swing, and we'll be talking about Nigerian women who have had the audacity to bury 2 children and cost the NHS thousands and thousands of pounds. And then 10 years down the line, your children will say to you, what happened to the NHS? I was reading about the NHS, Dad. Apparently everyone used to get treated for free at the doctors. You're really cross with me now because it cost me 50 quid to see the GP yesterday. Yeah. What were you doing, Dad, when they, what were you doing when they dismantled the NHS and flogged it off, turned it into a 2-tier system? Oh, sorry about that, son. I was shouting at my radio about a Nigerian woman who'd buried 2 babies. It's 10:30. Rupert, senior cabinet minister to keep his job after Theresa May became Prime Minister. Is there anyone else? Fallon was at Defence. Hammond. He was, wasn't he? Jeremy Hunt was the only senior cabinet minister to keep his job. Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, Chancellor all changed. Culture, Media and Sport changed. Wow. So he's the only senior cabinet minister to keep his job after Theresa May took over. And today he says, in